Hi there, it's Kieran here back again with Brutally Delicious, and today I'll be taking a look at Job for a Cowboy's album, Moon Healer. Job for a Cowboy is a band that I feel was always lumped into the deathcore scene early on in their career. Besides their debut EP, Gloom, however, the rest of their output has been rooted in death metal, and even Gloom showed musical progression beyond the primitive meat and potatoes deathcore archetype of the early 2000s. The band were importantly still in their teens when they produced this EP, and it can be heard in the youthful, ignorant sound. Now with youth comes the inevitable passage of growth, however. The band still had their detractors upon the release of their debut Genesis, dismissing the album as a watered-down offering, albeit an improvement from their core roots. Yet with each preceding release, Job for a Cowboy would be incrementally upping the ante, honing in on their technique and producing an increasingly demanding, technical brand of death metal. This remarkable rise would culminate in their 2014 album Sun Eater, which cemented the band's place as a legitimate force in progressive death metal, melding some serious chops with a fresh coat of paint and converting countless naysayers in the process. Sun Eater was a surprising delight that would make even the most jaded metalheads smile, but as quickly as they would enjoy a career renaissance, Job for a Cowboy would seemingly fall off the face of the earth. The band teased metal fans with a glimpse of greatness and an exasperating open-ended tale of what could have been. Fast forward 5 years later, and whisperings emerged that the band are preparing new material. But it's 9 years after the metal landscape is completely reshaped, and after close to a decade of speculation on whether the band even exists anymore, that Job for a Cowboy emerges from their slumber with their 2024 album, Moon Healer. Moon Healer is in name alone a spiritual successor to Sun Eater, and it backs up this continuity in its substance too. Job for a Cowboy are at their most adventurous yet here, and it's immediately evident that a few years of inactivity would fail to dull their shine. There is a flamboyant and flashy prog grandeur all across Moon Healer. The bass lines are dynamic and dance around much like ornate classical music, and there is a warm jazzy tone and slap bass sections that are used to great effect. We are treated with guitar riffs aplenty that don't shy away from showing off, but they are melodic earworms that often sound almost like a synth themselves, another nod to prog rock. These are not the sort of angular dissonant solos more familiar to death metal, but they incorporate excellently with the soundscape Job for a Cowboy has crafted here. There is a palpable drama to every track, and they all blend seamlessly into the next, feeling a bit more like acts of one larger musical body, as opposed to standalone songs. The tracks flow well together and swell between churning death metal punishment and agile guitar gymnastics. There is a lot going on, but the songwriting never feels overcrowded. Every component slots in nicely, and there is an admirable attention to musicality that creates a nice middle ground between the more primitive style of death metal that has enjoyed the spotlight the last few years and purely technical acts that prioritise brains over heart. I think this isn't an album that's bothered with trying to fit in with a metal scene that has reshaped during their hiatus. It shines on its own merit and retakes the reins with style and aplomb. Job for a Cowboy takes technicality and prowess and presents it in a charming package that really shines. The melding of death metal with a progressive leaning isn't a new concept, and it was refined superbly by Horrendous last year, receiving high praise across the board and topping many end-of-year lists. It might be a bold proclamation, but I think Job for a Cowboy has created an even more engaging body of work here that hits those proggy notes while retaining even more grunt. I've always been first and foremost a music listener who is most swayed, in my opinion, by how something makes me feel. I tend to gravitate more towards the visceral and cathartic over the polished and refined, especially in regards to extreme music. However, I can happily say this album has scratched my itch while expanding my own outlook on what makes a great metal album.
Welcome to us talking about our podcast for a minute.
What's the name of that podcast?
That's Axe to Grind, and right now you're going to be getting a little taste of it, right down to the shaky microphone and all.
And my name's Bob.
And my name's Patrick, and usually we're joined by Tom.
Tom's the best. Tom has a real grown-up job that requires him to be at work, but we talk about decidedly not so grown-up things like
hardcore music and things that people that like hardcore music tend to like.
So that could be the latest shows, revisiting classic material, talking about the new classics, all the little dorm room nonsense that you imagine from niche music podcasts that you either love, want to love, or hate.
Yeah, imagine all the emotions that you have towards a genre that has impacted your life, and then condense them down to an hour to 2 hours a week.
So triangulate your speakers, think about jumping off the bed, singing along, dancing like an idiot, and listen to Axe to Grind podcast.